Well, if we start with just basically who you are, what your kind of brand is, and what your day-to-day business kind of entails, essentially.
Sure. So I'm Rob of Therapy with Rob. I'm a professional hypnotherapist. I'm a mindset coach. I primarily work with sports people, and those sports people are primarily fighters, people in the combat sports world. The reason that I've migrated into fighting specifically is just that mindset surrounding fighting is just it's so interesting to me, and to hear from hundreds of people their experience of knowing that they're going in there to fight and having to manage and control everything that comes around that. It's vital to gain an understanding of the mind. It's vital to gain that control over the mind, to go into a situation where ultimately you are in danger and the consequences uh, uh, can be dire, to be
Yeah.
honest. But the my brand TWR Therapy with Rob is really about embodying the control that we all have. We've all
Mm.
got a control over our lives in some way. And once we can understand exactly the structure and the how, things start to take shape. We start to feel like we're a lot more in control. We can elevate ourselves above certain situations that will cause anxiety, that will cause stress. And as long as we can put ourselves back in that driving seat or feel like we are somewhat in control, and surely that's the goal of life, to be content and be happy in the now and feel like we're in some sort of control.
Mm. Why do you think mental health, like now, I mean, like within like the last, I would say like 5 6 years, it's really taken a driving seat in kind of athlete development and just life in general. Why do you think it's become so important, or why, sorry, it's been highlighted? Because it's always been there. I just feel like it's gained its own kind of steam as time has gone by.
It's an interesting one. I believe it just we're always striving, aren't we, as humans? We're always striving for better and more. And has it just been at some point, like you say, Jen, it's always been there, but has it been identified as, well, why don't we look into this? And then all of a sudden, the more understanding that we gain about the mind and the psychology behind why we behave certain ways and
Mm.
feel certain ways, because we're now delving into that and understanding more about it. Oh, we can use this to our advantage. And once it's implemented into someone's game and they see the benefits of that, then now we're here at this point where it is actually starting to become a staple in people's prep for competitions. And that it's a big part of my passion, to be honest, James, is really allowing people to understand that this is just as important, if not more important, to someone's prep than getting a massage or getting a nutritionist on board. If you've got the ability to have it all, I would 100% recommend having it all. Hence why bringing out that app, James, to help facilitate the ease of access into this work. Because
Mm.
again, I appreciate it's not financially viable for a lot of people to work with myself or psychologists or therapists one to one. So yeah, it's a big part of my passion with this work, man.
In sports, I mean, with the athletes that you kind of work with, how do you kind of dig in, or how do you kind of get them to an understanding of this is how important this is to them?
So, like I mentioned before, James, a big part of my work is allowing people to recognize and actualize the control and power that they have, and by tools that I give them and perspectives and understanding that I give them. Once they start to see that, once they start to see that actually, I don't just have to sit within that thought, that belief, or that feeling. I can actually take a step back and look at it from a different place and a different
Mm.
perspective and sit within that serves me better. Once they start to see that change, doesn't matter how small or how drastic, that's when that starts to facilitate this idea of, okay, like there's something here. This is actually important. And I've had long-standing clients now for, like, I see some of my clients every week, and I've seen them for over 2 years, 2.5, nearly 3 years. which is insane. You would think like, what are you talking about? But it's fascinating how much you can really uncover, especially deeper into this work. But like I say, James, it's all about that. Once someone can actually recognize that I am in control of how I feel, I'm in
Mm,
control of what I see in my environment and how I respond to it, the world's your oyster at that point. Doesn't mean that you're never going to feel you're never not going to feel anxious, or you're not going to feel any of those negative feelings. It just means that you're putting yourself in a position to be able to acknowledge them when they come up, understand why they're there, and then put yourself back in a place of control and elevate yourself above that
mm.
external situation.
Yeah, it's being present with the and accepting that okay, this may feel like it's never going to stop, but it will stop, and it's getting you to that end place where you can cope within that. With anxiety, it's so easy to like a runaway train almost. You just once it gathers steam, it's kind of very hard to kind of bring it back under control. But
Yeah,
with coping mechanisms and being present with, okay, it's going to suck for a moment, but we are going to get back down to that kind of baseline level. I think it's so vital, especially in combat sports. I mean, my God, it's one of the most stressful environments you can be in because once that cage door shuts, or whether when you get in that ring, it's literally you. Again, why do you think? I don't think mental health has ever been more in the forefront of combat sports. It used to be chalked up like, oh, you've either got it or you haven't. Whereas um, we're a lot more accepting that this is something that just everybody has.
yeah.
How do you think that? I mean, where do you see it going? Where do you see like we've still got work to do, and where do you think that might take itself?
It's hard to say, but it can only be positive. It can only be beneficial for us. I think the more that we understand the mind and we understand ourselves, that can only benefit us. And who knows where it's going to take us. But I definitely see this line of work, the space that I'm in, being synonymous with a prep for a competition somewhat, because it's been here, like you say, James. It's been here. Why now is it all of a sudden just taken off? Like
Mm,
I don't know. Maybe it's the access to um it's access to information, the access to other people's experiences as well. We're privy to hearing someone across the world having that. So not all of a sudden you have this pocket of people that's actually experiencing all the same thing. And now it's starting to become this idea of, oh, I'm experiencing that. And maybe that is normal. Whereas before it was like you didn't hear about it, you didn't see it, no one spoke
mm,
about it. So if I feel any type of way, then maybe I'm the odd one out here. Maybe that's
yeah,
how it used to be. But now it's a lot more inclusive, like you say, and it is definitely this idea of we all have it, and it's actually all right that we can speak about these things and speak
mm,
about feelings, man. Anxiety and depression are just simply emotions that we experience, and we don't need to necessarily identify with them. How many times do we say, I am happy? I'm not happiness. It's I feel happy.
mm,
I am not a person who is happy. It's just that I feel happy in this particular moment, and yeah, it feels great, and I'd love to feel it all the time. But at the same side of the coin, like would I? But it's about just allowing these emotions to come through,
mm.
and almost being the observer in those times.
I suppose it's signposting what's the triggers for both happiness and depression. I think that's probably or anxiety. I think that's probably where some work is left to done because we're so hyper fixated on why we feel bad about something that we don't turn that on its head and go, well, actually, why are we feeling great about this at the moment? What's the root cause? Um, what kind of
Love that.
advice? I mean, because obviously you guys are getting younger and younger these days, getting into things like combat sports and sports in general. I mean, what are the kind of things that you would say, advice you would give to someone just to kind of give them the best kind of start or to identify potential kind of speed bumps or things that they may be coping with right now or not coping with right now?
Making sure that and this is for everyone, whether it's grassroots or elite level, just making sure that that internal dialogue is loud. You're speaking to yourself, you're challenging certain biases and assumptions, and you're not letting yourself off the hook with things. If you're feeling apprehensive or worried about an upcoming fight, that's fine. There's a reason why you're feeling like that. And just because you might not hear it in the gym, people saying it, doesn't mean that it's not there. And if you're feeling that worry, if you're feeling that apprehension, then see if you can question why that's there. What specifically about that fight are you worried or apprehensive about? And if you can identify that specific thought, you've got a better chance at being able to rationalize it and seeing if you can put yourself back in that position of control. So, for example, if you're fighting a really tall opponent and you've never fought a really tall opponent, then what do you know about yourself when sparring with people who are taller? What have you been able to do? Are you able to cut the distance? Are you able to change angles quick? Is your hand speed next level? What is it that's putting you back in that position where you feel somewhat in control? But the main thing is just open that conversation with yourself and just see what's there, never letting yourself off the hook. So if you go, okay, I feel anxious about this upcoming fight. Okay, dig down deeper. What is it about the fight that you're actually feeling anxious about? Because there's going to be hundreds and hundreds of variables and nuances of that particular fight. And
Mm.
again, it's about answering them. We're plagued by what ifs in life. That's all where anxiety comes from. And if you can answer them and feel somewhat okay about it, then run with that feeling until it comes up again, and then you do it again and you do it again, and you've got to keep challenging that. But that's the main thing there, James, is just opening that conversation, challenging those biases and assumptions, and seeing if you can bring it back to yourself.
Okay. And finally, I'll tell you what, we'll turn it on its head a little bit. What would you do you think it's ever too late? What would be advice for somebody who say like has been trying to cope for X amount of time and just has kind of accepted that maybe like this is just how I have to be? Do you believe that there is ever a time where it's too late to kind of help or get that kind of support?
Never, never. How can it be? We're only here now in the present. So this is what's important right now. And if you've been experiencing X, Y, and Z for so many years, now is the best time to make that difference. So then the future looks even brighter. And if you can take that control right now, then of course it's going to allow you to feel a lot more contented in the moment. But it might take a little bit longer to work through things because of course you've got years of experience there to work through. But from my experience, James, and I've worked with people who are in the 60s, who are in the 50s and 40s that are new into this work. And you get a whole range of different responses. You get people who can just literally move on from the past. You get people where it takes a little bit longer to work through things and understand things. But it's never too late. Definitely not, man.
Perfect. All right. So if anyone wants to kind of follow you, follow the work that you do, where can they find you? How they do it?
Instagram, therapy with Rob. It's therapy with Rob everywhere. YouTube's coming out very soon as well, following client journeys, day in the life, sort of event days, motivational videos. I've got the app coming out very soon, and that'll be plastered all over social media and things like that. And hopefully, like I say, that's going to create that ease of access to this work.
Perfect. Rob, it's been a real pleasure to speak to you and thank you for kind of sharing your time with us.
Thank you very much, man. I appreciate it.